Hi there, it's Louise here of Timeless Craft Mama, sharing a layout with you today using the Free Spirit collection by Coco Vanilla Studio from Scrapbook Boutique. Now I'd like to go through and show you some of the products that I'm going to use, some of the shimmers, gold tones, the wood veneers, some chipboard, flare buttons, and of course the paper from the collection kit. Such beautiful, pretty pinks and greens and orange colours. So I'm just having a look through what was available in the kit and getting ready to start this layout. Now the first thing I've done is I've taken some paper and I've used my Cricut machine to cut out some shapes and also a flower. Now this is one of my favourite techniques. By using a Cricut or a die cut machine, you can actually cut things out multiple times and then glue them on top of each other to give you a kind of chipboard effect. So if you just lay them one on top of the other and stick them all down, it gives a beautiful raised product as opposed to just a flat paper product. So that's what I'm doing here with these cutouts, is just gluing them on top of each other, getting them ready to use on the layout. Now once I've had a look at these cutouts, I'm going to go through and pull out any papers from this collection that I feel like I could use on a masculine page, because I have boys, so I want to make sure that any of those more masculine papers can be used for my boy layouts. So I'm keeping any that I like for this particular page, and I'm going to start with this nice white background and take that floral patterned paper and start to tear some of the strips off. So I'm going to be putting some mists over the top of these. They don't have to be too neat, just roughed up around the edges and popped on the page so that we are building some interest in the background. Okay, so I'm happy with the way this paper is starting to look. So I'm going to take some heavy gesso and I'm just going to spread that around with a card to give me a base to work with when I start to apply some of the mists. Now, some people have a preference for heat setting their gesso. Me, I like to leave mine overnight and come back to it the next day. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to build some of the stuff that's going to go on this page. And the first thing is that I'm actually going to make my own flower. So this cutout from the Cricut, if you fold it up upon itself and sort of just have a bit of a play around with it, it actually turns into quite a pretty little flower. I find them a little bit tedious, but they are so nice to use on a page once you've done them. So it really is worth the effort to put them together. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and use my tweezers to twist that flower onto itself, just to sort of bring all that paper together, and then use a little bit of adhesive on the back and just glue that so that it's stuck, ready to go on the page. So I'm just going to set that aside to dry once I'm happy with how it's looking, and move on to some of the other parts of this layout. Popping some card behind the paper, behind the photo, to build that up on the page, marking out where I'm going to place it, and then starting to build around that. So I'm looking around at some colours and looking at what's in this paper collection kit and the colours in my photo and thinking about what I want to use on this background. Eventually I got rid of the watercolours and decided on the metallic gelato in watermelon. And it kind of goes on the page with a really heavy look, but when it dries to a much lighter, more shimmery sort of metallic tone. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the brush, spreading some of that colour around on the page, and also a couple of splatters here and there just to give effect. So you can see with that little bit of leftover gelato I've got there on the plastic that it goes on in a really intense colour, but as it's starting to dry it's got a beautiful tone to it. Now, while I set that aside to dry, I'm going to go through the wood veneer pack and pick out some of the ones that I want to use on this page. So now that I'm happy with the way that gelato's gone on the page and it's all dry, I'm going to do the same process, but I'm going to use the Shimmers Gold Spray. So I'm just going to blend that in with some of that gelato and move some of that colour around the page. And the same is with this particular product, those Shimmers products. They go on quite intense, but as they sort of dry, they have this beautiful shimmer to them, hence the name Shimmers. So this is the first time I've used that product, and I was really impressed with the way it worked on the page. It was really versatile and it just worked for everything. So again, I'm applying some of that Shimmers colour to the chipboard this time, and I did some stamping with embossing powder and the Ranger embossing, but I decided that it didn't really work. The powder didn't set really well on the chipboard that I'd covered with mist. So I've left it in the video because you can see what I'm doing, but when the final product actually went on the page, it didn't turn out like I wanted it to. For whatever reason, the embossing powder didn't set very well on that chipboard that has that Shimmers product. Okay, so because my stamping didn't really work on that chipboard, I decided to use this stamp on the background. So I'm just going to take some black ink and spread that Craft stamp around on the background of the page. And then just to add a little bit more interest and texture, I'm also going to cut up some plasterer's tape just roughly and lay that around that stamping. I'm going to build over most of it later when I complete this layout, but I think it just gives an interesting feel and something to provide just that little bit of texture in the background. So I'm going to pop all of the little cubes out of these particular chipboards, and I'm going to hang on to those because I will use them on a future layout. But for the purpose of today's page, I'm actually going to use that honeycomb shell from the outside. I'm going to go ahead and place that around the page in a couple of different spots just to, again, a little bit of texture, a little bit of interest, and go ahead and attach that with some glue. Now, despite the fact that the embossing didn't really work on the chipboard, I'm really happy with the colour. That Shimmers product really did give it a lovely shade of gold, and I think it just fits beautifully on this layout. So once that's all stuck down, I'm going to go ahead and add some more of that Shimmers product to some flowers. One is a bloom from Craft, and I'm also going to add just a little bit of gold to that flower that I created earlier, just to sort of blend it in with the gold of that page. So the next thing to do is attach that frame that I cut out earlier. So that's going on the back of the photo. And then I'm just going to pop some tape on that photo and stick it to the page. I'm happy with how that background's looking. So now I'm ready to start building around the outside of that photo with some of the extra options from this particular collection. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of the stickers from the sticker sheet. Lots of pretty flowers and colours and little sayings that you can use. And flower placement I'm happy with, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that down as well. Moving along, I'm going to pop some cotton that I've already pre-wound into that little crevice there beneath the flowers where that folded paper is, and pop a little flare button over the top. So building this layout, making sure that it's nice and balanced and I've got a good mix of colour and paper. The wood veneers are going on now, and also that little cutout that I made earlier. I did have a bit of trouble titling this page. It's a picture of my mum and I at New Year's. So I wasn't quite sure what I was going to call it. Everything I came up with seemed to be a little bit long, so I ended up just settling with that cutout from earlier which says, "I love you." It was blending in with the page a little bit too much, so I just popped it on some black cardstock and cut around it just to help it sort of stand out. I didn't want to lose it with all that pink in the background. So I think that has the desired effect. Now I'm just going to go ahead and attach some of those wood veneers, stick all these final parts down, and just take a couple more of the stickers from the sticker sheet, and this layout will be done. So I really hope you enjoyed that. I've got a couple of close-ups of the finished product with some journaling and having a look at the particular page. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow my blog to see more of my projects in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.